Hello and welcome to an introduction to the R.U.B.E Box2D editor. This video we'll just take a look at a few of the things that the editor can do and why you might find it useful. So in a nutshell, the editor lets you edit a Box2D world, and it saves the world or representation of the world to a file, and then you would load that file in your program or your game or your app or whatever you have and use that to recreate the world and run the simulation. So this is the editor here, and we have a pretty much empty, almost empty, we just have one ground fixture at the bottom there, a world, and I have set up a couple of programs here. One is this one here, the Box2D testbed, and when I click restart here, this is going to load in the world file that we've saved. And I also have another one over here, which is JavaScript version, and this is based on Box2D Web, and this is also going to load in that same world when I click reset. So just as a very quick look at what kind of a data we're saving here, it's just plain text JSON, so this is a fairly widely used format. You can find parsers available in a lot of programming languages for this. It's fairly lightweight and straightforward. So yeah, this is the entirety of the file at the moment. We can see we just have a body, fixture, chain, and the two vertices there. And you can excuse me, find the format for this on the R.U.B.E website if you want to make your own loader and so on. So just as a quick demonstration of how these files are all connected, I will make a body here, and this is a square fixture body, and I will just sort of move it around, rotate it a little bit and so on, and then I will export that, and then I'll come back to my JavaScript, and we can see that we've loaded that in there. If I reset, we can see we're loading in the JSON file there. And over here, actually I have to copy this first, then back in here I can do the same thing in the C++ version. So that's C++ and JavaScript, and you can also find source code for Java version of this, and that's based on Box2D, and there is also a sample project for iOS, so that's an Xcode project setup that you can check out if you want to run this stuff on iOS. Now, we don't always want to keep switching out to our external programs to check everything, so the editor has an internal player which we can use here as well, and this is it opens up another window in the editor program itself, and this lets us do kind of the same things that we would do in the test bed, so we can grab the bodies and throw them around and pause and single step and so on. So this is probably what we'd be looking at most of the time when you're running the simulation. You wouldn't be continuously switching out to your own program that much. So let's have a look at some of the other shape types that we can create in the editor. This is just a square, obviously, and we have circles, and we have polygons, and we have edge shapes like so. And once again, if we export that and run over here, we can see that we've loaded that in our JavaScript just like that. So I don't know, perhaps you might like to continuously run things in your own program like that. It's just as quick most of the time. But I tend to use the internal player view in the editor like this. Oops. Okay, so let's get rid of these, and you'll notice that we have full undo redo functionality here, so you don't have to worry about deleting something and then whoops, wanting to get it back and not being able to. Right, what can we do here? Let's try this. We can move individual vertices around like this, and we can do multiple selection and rotating and deleting and everything else that we did with the bodies as well. So a nice feature that you would like to see, I expect, when you start working with Box2D, you'll notice that you cannot make concave polygons, so the editor will take care of that for you. If you make a concave polygon like this, you'll see that the editor will automatically split that into two convex polygons, or as we go adding vertices around like this, you'll see that, let's take that one off, you'll see that the editor automatically makes whatever convex polygons you need. So that's vertices. How about joints? Let's have a quick look at joints. What should we do with this? Let's make this body a static body, and we'll get rid of some of this silliness over here. Okay, that'll do. So this body can go down here, and we will use this as the base for a kind of a pedestal for a mount here, and over here we'll have a body. Let's see, we'll make a triangle, and I'm going to put a joint between these two bodies here. So joint is going to go there, and it's going to be between this body and that body, and it's going to be a Revolute joint. So at the moment there's just these 5 joints that are supported, but they are fully supported. You can change any of the properties of these joints, and where it's feasible for them to be changed graphically, you can change them graphically, visually rather. So anyway, Revolute joint, and we can go into joint mode here, and we can see all the joints and check their properties and so on in the properties panel like this, change which bodies they're connected to and so on. And in the player view we can of course check that the joint is indeed connected as we expected. And one thing that you also come across fairly frequently when you're making Box2D worlds like this is the need to make chains is a fairly common sort of a requirement. So let's have a look at how we can do a chain in the R.U.B.E editor. So I'm just going to take this body and duplicate that over here, and when I duplicate we'll see that this joint has actually been duplicated as well. I don't really want that joint because it's connected to the ground body. So what I'm going to do is put another joint in there myself, and this will be a Revolute joint again. Revolute joint, and let me just check that. Okay, so now we have the beginnings of a chain. And one method you can use for making chains in the R.U.B.E editor is select the 2 bodies that you want to be the prototype segments of the chain, and then also select the joint that you want to be part of that prototype, and then you can use this convenient menu here, make chain, and I'm going to add another 8 bodies to this chain like that. So that runs a script. All of these menu items here are based on script, and you can customize this menu yourself completely. Here's one here, my scripts. These are things that you can add fairly easily, and they're all undoable and redoable as well, so don't have to worry about screwing anything up too much. So that gives us a nice chain like that. And another nifty thing we can do is we can select an entire structure of bodies like this, and we can duplicate it, scale it, rotate it and so on. Just leave it non-rotated. And another cool thing we can do is we can actually scale in a negative direction, so to speak. So it's probably easier to just do this rather than try and explain it. So I can scale this entire structure over the y-axis in this case, and I can create a new set of bodies there. So that can be quite handy quite often when you're trying to make things symmetrical. You can just make one side of it and then mirror it across the y-axis or the x-axis to get an exact copy facing the other way. As an example of when this kind of symmetry comes in handy, here's a pendulum clock which is fully functioning, or I should say it's fully modeled, physically modeled, just using Box2D bodies and Revolute joints. So you can see that symmetry and precision is quite important in this case. Okay. Another thing that is very important to have is the ability to incorporate images in your scene. So the way it's done in R.U.B.E is there's two main types of images, backing images and images that get attached to bodies. So I think I'm just going to get rid of all of this now, and let's have a look at what we have here. Okay, so a backing image would be something like this, where you would start with a scene like this, and you'd put some fixture in there, and then you would use the vertices of this fixture to go about placing ground. So this would be a ground body, and then you could just draw around it. So it's quite an easy way to get complex shapes. I'm not going to go all the way around there, but just pretend that I did. Quite easy way to get complex shapes into your program, into your world. So that's backing image. And another type of image, or it's just images are all the same really, but another use that you might have for images is to place them on a body that moves around. So we have some nice little images here that I found on Daniel Cook's site. That's lostgarden.com, and I'm just going to start with this one, and let's bring this down here, and we'll zoom in a bit. So we can put a body with a circle fixture here, scale it down to sort of fit on this person, and then we'll put another one here. So these two fixtures are both on the same body, and then we can say that this image should be attached to that body. So now when we move this body, we'll find that move this body around, we'll find that the image moves with it. And when we run this in the physics world, we'll see the same thing. So that's the basic premise of adding images to bodies. And you can add as many images as you like to a body, of course, same way as fixtures. Multiple images can go on body just fine. Another reason that you might want to use images for is, even if they're just backing images and they don't have any physics as such, you might want to use this mechanism just for creating composite images. So as an example of that, we might want to make a tree from this image here. So we just have one part of the tree. You go over there. Just have one part of the tree here, but we can duplicate this and scale it and rotate it and so on, and we can make some foliage like this, and we do this for a while, and we have a nice sort of a tree looking thing. And it looks a bit cluttered there because we're in the player view and we've got all these lines around it, plus it's all in half opacity, so we can select all of these and make them full opacity like that. That's a little bit easier to see, isn't it? We reload. Okay, so this is quite a handy way to make a composite image, and then you could actually take a screenshot of that or something if you wanted to combine them into one image to use in your program. It could be a handy way to make extra art assets. So here's an example of something that I took a little bit further today when I was playing around thinking about what I could do for this video. So this is just a bunch of images from Daniel Cook's image pack there, and the same little body that I made earlier just before, and there's a wheel, a Revolute joint there with the motor on it. So when we run this, we can see that we have images attached to this set of bodies here, just like we had before with the chain. And now that we have a fixture, an image on everything, we can turn some of these displays off here, so we can turn off fixtures, and we can turn off bodies, and we can turn off joints. So this lets you see a little bit more what you would see in your finished game, and you can play with the physics like this as well. So you can get a fairly good looking setup fairly quickly and tune all the parameters to get it to feel how you want, just how you want it to feel like. And these rocks here, by the way, were just one rock to start with, and I scaled them and moved them around. So that's another example of how you can just cheat on making art. Okay, and over here on the left we have another example of a backing image, but this is a little bit different because it's a top-down version. So this character has the gravity scale set to 0 and has some linear damping. So we can see here that this character can't move through the rocks, and it can't climb up the wall there, and it can't get around there. And this is because if we turn the fixtures back on, we'll see that there are some static fixtures placed around there like that, so that the character can't get through. So this is another way you could make use of backing images and static fixtures and so on. And finally, another example that may or may not be handy is putting a bunch of images onto bodies that are all connected, like sort of in a skeleton kind of a way, like this. So this is just a bunch of bodies joined together, and they're all joined with Revolute joints which have limits set so that they can't rotate too far in one direction. And this, I don't know whether this would really be handy. I just sort of thought of it today while I was getting ready for this video, but if we play this here, this is similar to the top-down body that we just looked at, in that it has all the bodies are set to be 0 gravity, and they have a large linear damping and angular damping, so that when we move them they stick together obviously, but they hang in space as well, so they don't fall down. So I don't know, perhaps this could be useful for making some kind of frames of a running animation or something, but to be honest it's not really what this software is for, but I think it's kind of promising, so maybe in future something in this direction could be looked into a little bit further as well. I don't know if people really need this kind of thing or what, but by all means, your feedback is much appreciated. It's kind of fun, fun just to fiddle around with anyway, isn't it? Alright, so finally, this editor is fully scriptable. So by that I mean everything that we've been doing here can be scripted. So anything that you can do with the mouse and the keyboard and everything, as we've been looking at so far, can be done in script. So as a example here, I'm going to select all of these images. Whoops, image mode. Select all of those images there, and we can manually duplicate them like this, right? But rather than manually duplicating them, we can also use script to duplicate them. So we have a function called getSelected images. So that will that will give us this set of images there, and we can duplicate them. So that will give us a set of images that we've duplicated from what we had selected, and we can assign that to a variable like this. So that will give us an array of all the images that we have selected, but we've duplicated them. I hope this makes sense. And then we can translate this array by, say, let's see, 2-ish. So this script here, when I run this by either clicking run or hitting F5 like this, we'll see that all the images that I had selected are duplicated and moved 2 units to the right. And I can undo this in the same way as I undo any other operation. And the nice thing about this is the fact that I'm working on what I've selected. So I've written this script once, but I can use it many times. For example, if I just had one of those images selected, run the script. Or if I had this image selected, run the script. So it's quite a handy little thing to be able to do that, the script working in hand with like your actual selection that you have in the editor view. So undo those. And of course, because this is script, we can also do nice things like putting loops in here. Let's see, 10. And then we can do this like so. So now we'll do that 10 times. Actually, I'll make it one of these because I'm going to make it I times 2. Okay, so we can do something like this. So now we have 10 of those. Whatever we had selected has been duplicated 10 times and moved across. And I'll just make it a bit tighter, and instead of giving them the same height, I'll use a sine function to make it a wavy form like this. So you can see here that the script, you can do all kinds of things. The sky is the limit. And you can use this to do jobs that would otherwise be tedious to do by hand, or you need more precision, or you want to do a lot of something. The scripts can be quite handy. So as I mentioned before, all of the contents of this menu here are scripts, and anything that you put in the script menu and write, you can add to this menu here to be run again. For example, I have this one here called radial copy, and that will, let's try this fixture here, and this will make copies of whatever fixture I have selected, and it will rotate them around the cursor where this little red and white thing is the cursor here. So if I do this, let's see, what have we got here? Radial copy, and I'll have 12 copies like that. So this is one that I set up during the tutorial videos, so you can sort of check out the tutorial videos if you want to know a little bit more about how they work. But suffice to say, the scripting opens up a lot of possibilities. So just in closing, if you want to try this editor out, there's a trial version. The trial version does not save the JSON files that we saw earlier, that's all. Otherwise, all the other functionality works. And there's plenty of help. You can use the context help here to help you get started. And of course, there's also this other regular help here, which is fairly comprehensive, should get you started. And there's a series of 16 videos on YouTube to go over all the details of how to set up scenes and joints and fixtures and all the details of the stuff that I kind of skipped over a lot of in this video. So hope you enjoy playing around with this editor, and thanks for watching.